then the comparative analysis or the scenario analysis is based on product or service. But those are the two requirements, and the robust analysis from that is super powerful. Obviously, not every question has brand and price as requirements or as a nexus. And so you can still run now scenarios based on the question that you prompt, but that was like a big bug fix that is now overcome with this release. So really, really, really good update there. Yeah, that was really helpful.
So if I could summarize the two big updates for this release that you guys were reviewing, the persona data that we're generating is actually grounded. It's coming from real personas, real humans in the United States. Every respondent is a real, actual respondent. And Pablo, the object of study, the experimental design, the independent variables, right, are all coming from actual real products. So in this version of the release, we have grounded both the respondents and we've grounded the experiment.
Wow. Where's the product data or information coming from? Is that like the deep research component of like
It's
OpenAI?
no, we actually use Perplexity for that. We could experiment with using deep research, yeah, but right now it's Perplexity.
Very cool. Very, very cool. That's very interesting. A question that I get more often, guys, is kind of like, where's the source of information and like the source of the data? And it's tough. I say things like U.S. Census, right? U.gov, like, very valid, credible sources, right? We're in the business of causation, not correlation. So, we care about the quality and the sanity of the data coming in, et cetera. But I don't feel like I have a very strong or compelling response to that, because I also don't want to, I've been told not to share additional details about our data sources because that could be itself a competitive, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I'm not sure, but whatever answer I have shared with people that I've asked, I don't know if it's been sufficient or a very compelling answer. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say right now when we're generating the personas, we're mostly using open source public data. So you know, things like the census data, the PUMS data, household time use. They're all, some of them I'm not sure if we're actually even using or not, but it's mostly public row level, individual level data sources. So it's non-aggregate third party data and second party data. Okay, so it's data coming from real people, and that's for the respondents, and for the and then for the products, for the independent variables, we effectively run a qualitative survey using Perplexity on what are the competing products, what are the competing prices, what are the competing brands, and then we generate the data from effectively like real-time web agents. And then Subodh can tell me where I was wrong and
So
make me more right.
we are almost there. So it's kind of like a two-step process, Pablo. So
Yeah.
let's say we have certain questions, right? Whatever you type. So first we ask, okay, if we have to answer this question, right, using a conjoint approach, tell us what are the most important features that we should consider. So let's say, and we ask this to, let's say, GPT-4. It gives us 10 features, and in the descending order of importance based on all the literature and data it has seen. Once we have those features, so maybe if we question, let's say, is electric car, GPT might say, okay, we need price, we need brand, I don't know, we need battery range, uh, 0 to 100 in how much minute, whatever important thing it can think of. So once we know, okay, these are the, and dimensions we have to look for. Then we go to perplexity, and we'll actually fetch real world products. So electric car, okay, give us some electric car in a mid segment. So maybe we get from Tesla, we get some from Nissan, some other one. Then we know what are the features that we need to query. Now for each of these actual cars that exist, right, we go and fetch the exact value of these variables or features. So maybe price for a Tesla mid segment, whatever, 35,000, 40,000, whatever it is. Battery range maybe 400 kilometers or miles in one full charge. Then we do with all the other products. And that's how we basically collect all these labels of the attribute. And then those are basically then realistic because they do exist in the real world. So it's basically this two-step process which allows you to, okay, what are the important dimensions? Once we know, we go and fetch the real values of that. So price also will be realistic. Anything else that we labels that we see for those attributes slash features, they are basically then all realistic.
Got it.
And what if someone adds an attribute that is not realistic or not that doesn't happen frequently enough?
Okay, so then, okay, you add, doesn't matter, okay, and then we go do the experiment, right? So let's say that add new attribute which you added, you think it's gonna make a difference, but then once the whole analysis is over, you have 2 or 3 graphs like feature importance, feature label importance, right? Then you can go and actually see whether the new one which you added, what is the contribution of that, and that gives you more of a statistical validation of what you thought was good or bad. Here is the number. Again, that can be it may turn out that what you added did not contribute much, and one of the reason could be that all the other attributes that you have along with that is much more relevant and better. So maybe if you remove some of the important ones from the top, really, and then add few more, then you might start to see all the new ones which you are adding might actually start contributing. So it's not just that 1 or 2 that you are adding, but it's the whole mix that plays the game.
Okay.
Because under the hood, I'm not saying 100%, but more often than not, it's a compensatory process. So when we create these options and we say, okay, here's car 1, here's car 2, and here's car 3, let's say, and these are all the features for each attribute, there will be some value to those cars, right? So then when the LLMs are looking at it, they may look, okay, maybe the price looks high for this one, which is not a good sign, but maybe higher price leads to higher range. So it's like, okay, something is not that great, but it gets compensated with something else. And that's what I mean by it's not 1 or 2 attribute that is playing the game, it's the mix of it that is playing the game.
Got it. Very interesting. Nick, I think something that we can do later on today is just run a whole bunch of experiments and as a team create a list of outstanding questions, right? So that we can empower our technical team to kind of go in, ingest, and deliver responses that we can all align on, right? That's the whole point of the FAQ page, so that there's also quality control when we get asked that question, right?
Yeah.
So.
And yeah.
Awesome.
And a couple of other things. I mean, some of the stuff we heard today, some of the stuff that's new to the platform, we should definitely be talking about it in our emails to prospects. And then the other thing, and it's pretty minor, it's like earlier this week, I went through some of the attributes and I was kind of suggesting ways to show them in a more logical fashion, but you guys have already done that. So that's good. Because I was looking at the old platform. So that's good.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, like, this did not happen overnight. It took months and months of iterative. I know,
to
right? Tons of months of iterative work, tons of feedback, tons of like reported, feature requests, right? Tons of bothering Madi and Sabode and Tatovic and Avi. Frankly, I bothered Avi the most, and so like I just feel really proud, guys, of the team and of the platform. It's like a baby of mine. So
pretty on.
thank you so
This
much.
is actually not pretty. It's really awesome. But
Yeah.
thank you.
It really is cool. Uh, I have a few questions about it, and then I'd love to then talk about our our marketing motion to make sure that the eyes of the world are upon us when it comes to this new release. Wow, that's really strong language. So get ready, Mia. But my first question is this: when we're going through the process, and I select US, right? That means I have all these added features and, really super, the ability to be proactive in what synthetic agents come to the experiment. That's incredible. It's a new talk track, by the way. In that process, I noticed though that it forced me to select a state. What happens if the nature of the question is not on a per state basis, but rather on a city or on a national scale?
Or multiple states.
Or multiple states, correct?
So, well, let me start from bottom to up. You will have
That's
to
why he's
I mean, we can allow for no state selection. That will not be a big deal, but generally when somebody runs these kind of experiments, more often than not, because mostly you'll be running experiment which relate to some sort of economic choices, right? And people's preference and choices do differ state to state. So generally, even if you ran the same experiment, same attribute, just on two different states, you will see different feature importance and relative importances of that. Maybe not the whole complete ordering, but the relative differences in everything. And hence, as a default, it makes more sense to force people to choose a state, but we could allow for running at a national level. That's not a big issue. Coming back to running at multiple in one, that is something that is going to come in the next step, because that is something very similar to a user journey. It's like not running one experiment, but a chain of experiment. This is something very similar to it. So
Got it.
it will be taken care, not in a week or two, but hopefully in a 3-week period.
That's awesome.
But
That's already.
but this one is a quick fix. I mean, if you guys really think that we can have just at the country level, we can add that option. It's not a big
Yeah. So how I've seen real users apply it is, and this is, by the way, a superpower that only we can offer based on how we approach market research, which is, I call it now, by the way, this is a new term, I call it agile market research as opposed to waterfall.
Ooh,
It's actually pretty cool for those nerds, right?
That's
that have
sexy.
a product background. That makes a lot of sense. Think about it. Waterfall market research, expensive, slow, right? Like sometimes myopic, not in with the times. Agile, fast, iterative, right? Like science-based, all that good stuff. So agile market research, what it does is don't stress about the first experiment. So how I've seen a lot of users start to use this is they'll run an experiment and they make it as wide as possible. Okay? And then from that initial experiment, they'll learn, where do I got to go deeper? And then they'll run 3, 4 more experiments based on that. And every time I run an experiment, I learn more about that domain and about my outcome, right? And then it allows me to run better questions and better experiments thereafter. And it's the collective of all of that which is going to tell me the really impactful and powerful narrative and the action plan for me to achieve the outcome. So that's kind of like how I've seen users and frankly how I have been approaching it. So I would say I love that it's already on the roadmap to be able to add multiple states, etc. I love that we can already work with what we have and say, hey, customer, right? We got to crawl, right? Walk, run. So right now it's on a per state basis. You replicate the experiment, and the collection of all those states together will tell you the story. But I also would challenge and say we probably should add a national layer as well, because that's how they view it. Big picture, and then I learn based on that big agile market research, I get to narrow down on the areas that I got to go deeper into. So,
And, yes, I agree with everything you said, but also sometimes it's not state that matters. Like they're looking at big cities, right? So I live in the Washington, D.C. area. That's D.C., parts of Maryland, parts of Virginia, right? Avi lives.
So one thing that we can do, not in the short term, but Atish did this great job of standing up this SUPA-based database, which has kind of row-level data. The nice thing about SUPA-based is that it's MLOps compliant, so we can start at scale loading up as much data as we want into SUPA-based, and then we can actually build an agent to query SUPA-based to get exactly whatever population you're looking for. I want city dwellers, I want suburban folks, I want, whatever you can kind of imagine, you can imagine it. We can get an MCP, a model context protocol query. We can hit our database, which has, which should have copies of all that data stored, and we can get you a near facsimile of the people you're looking for. That's not a short-term project, but that is feasible.
That's okay, as long as we can tell a story and say, we're working on something like this, and it's going to be weeks or X number of months or whatever.
Yeah, part of the reason why we moved to SUPA-based is because it supports MCP. Also, Pablo, real quick, you mentioned agile waterfall, and I love that distinction. I'm wondering if we update your engineering slang a little bit. So agile, waterfall was awful, right? Agile was a little bit better, right? And agile is kind of what we're doing now, which is these 2-week sprints. But even agile is now kind of a couple of decades old, and people have actually moved from agile to something called DevOps. And now with DevOps, now they're oh, it's DevOps, or it's MLOps, or it's security ops, or whatever. So if you wanted to think about research ops, that could be another leapfrog of above agile.
yeah, that's a good point. I know that other teams in marketing, etc., are kind of behind on the lingo, they're agile is still new to them, but that's a great call out actually, and we should learn about what is this new way of thinking. And here's another one, right? Usually product management. I remember when I first entered that space, it was you have one product manager and their job is to push everything to all these multidisciplinary teams. And now what you have are product organizations,
right?
Where product is a function of an organization that is working together, right? It's product centric, product marketing managers, product designers, product engineers, etc. And so that's also really interesting too, that we can incorporate here, which is where the future is going. Where's that hockey puck going? I love the same thing for market research, because all teams rely on market research. They should all be able to be market researchers. They just don't have the tool to do it until now. God, I gotta write this down, guys. How cool is that? That should be an article. All right, one final question, and then we'll move on to go-to-market motion. And that is, I did see though, when we were proactive around what type of users, male, female, Hispanic, right, etc., there was a limit max on the income level. I can't go above 340,000. Is that a limit because of a limit of the data that we have? And so, okay, got it.
In most surveys, they look at 150 or 200 plus. Like there just aren't enough people who make more than that who respond to surveys where you can get
Right.
significant results.
That's good to know. Actually, I appreciate that that feedback. Can we say then 350 or whatever plus, as opposed to like just the limit at 340? And the reason why, what brought up my attention was, wait, SpaceX is a case example. And we say how centimillionaires, right? We provided and simulated the perspectives of centimillionaires, right? 350 is not a centimillionaire, you know? But now what that I understand it is, no, it's 350 plus and then some. There's no limit to that. So that makes more sense. I appreciate that. Thank you, Nick.
Um, uh, Pablo, you should put that in the chat.
I should. Actually, I put
Um,
that question. I put all those questions in the
okay.
chat, but yeah. Yeah. I've been taking notes, guys. All right. Mia, let's go to market. We did the hard work. We built the platform. Let's make sure everyone is aware of this. What's the messaging?
We have our LinkedIn post scheduled, and then for Twitter, we're repurposing our blog because it's more in depth of like the release. I would just need it approved on Planable and the blog to be published and like approved as well. And so if you guys would want to like review it just to make sure all the information's correct, I don't need to like add anything else or subtract anything. Be the only.
Fantastic. Let's connect right after that.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a big win. And now that Avi also unblocked me this week with the blog, we can do a full poll of all of our contacts, right? Or users that have authenticated, push it into the blog, and then send that newsletter accordingly to them. So that's something that we can do. Or we can still send it out through a HubSpot, which is what we've done in previous releases. So put some thought there, but that's great. It means that we're ready for releasing. Those are all my questions, guys. Any other questions? Did you guys see Walgreens got acquired by a private equity firm? We wrote an article, but we should probably reach out to that private equity firm and say, how can you do this better? Nick, that's an opportunity.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
That is it. Wow, we made it on time and everything. Guys, I'm really excited. We need to throw a party. My challenge for everyone today and the coming weekend, when you have time, test out the platform, right? Let's make it better now. It's our baby. Record the bugs, right? Write down the feature requests. Like, it already looks good. It looks super stable too. But let's make it perfect. So, let's play.
And also everyone's been working really, really hard to get this release done. Like, take some times for yourselves, get some sunshine on skin, drink some water, sleep. Everyone's been working really, really a lot. Thank you to everybody.
Yeah, this is a big win. This is a really big win, guys. Could not be prouder. All right, stay social. I'll see you guys in the channels. We have a lot of things still in the pipeline, ready to go. This is where we execute. So let's hit the fundamentals. Let's execute. Let's make sure we do things right. We do all that. We're gonna fundraise really well, and have a war chest and do a lot of really great things going forward. And this will come soon. So that's what we're hunting for. All right, thank you guys.